Do you feel like you are on this never-ending search for the perfect gear, the perfect drum machine, the perfect synth, the perfect controller? I feel like I've been on that never-ending quest ever since I got my first MIDI controller. And over a decade later, here I am still trying to assemble different pieces of gear and come up with the perfect setup. But I realized something about this quest. This all started a few weekends ago. Pardon this hair situation, mad scientist vibes, because it's the weekend and I like to reserve the weekends for experimentation. So let me show you what we have going on in the home studio today. Just a big mess, but trying to put together a sort of live performance music composition setup, I guess. The general idea is to have a setup where I'm writing music specifically for live performance. It's a little chaotic, but I think we can do this. Actually, I lied at the beginning. This is not where all this started. This is never where all this starts. For me, it always starts with a pen and paper. I need to map out what I'm actually trying to do because the possibilities are endless today with music technology, especially when we talk about trying to build a hybrid setup with using a DAW and using hardware. This is a crucial step I think everybody should do. It'll save you a lot of money too if you're not just working with gear that you have, but you're thinking about buying gear. Make sure every piece of gear has a specific role. Make sure there's no redundancies. Figure out the routing and the cabling. You'll save yourself a lot of frustration instead of trying to do all that once you've got the gear in front of you. Map it out first. So that's how this setup started. I listed all of the things I'd like to do for the ideal performance setup. I've been making these sketches for years. Here's a sketch of me trying to improve my home studio in 2012. Originally, while building this setup, I thought I would do everything via audio, so I needed an interface with multiple inputs. But what I found was that all of the gear I was trying to use here can be used with USB audio, so I can connect everything via USB, no big interface required. Really useful. I'm building this whole setup on the X Pro Performance Surface by Analog Cases, who is sponsoring today's video. I've used their Unison Performance case before, and that has the same concept, but this is more for on-stage performance. It fits and locks onto any keyboard stand and is super lightweight and portable. I'm able to run all my cables through the holes in the Performance Surface, which makes it very convenient for cable management. And I'll leave a link to it down in the description. Getting all the gear set up though is really only half the battle. Sure, the gear is all working, but what are you gonna play? Just need to sort of pre-plan some music so it doesn't just become this long, drawn-out kind of synth looping thing that never ends, So it's a matter of experimenting and setting up your session. What tempo is your track going to be at to start? What kind of sound do you want to be using if you're going to be using samples? What instrument presets are you going to use? Things like that. Do I need to pre-program rhythms on the TR-8S? It's a period of experimentation that you need to commit to, and don't put the expectation on yourself that as soon as you set up all this gear that you're going to be jamming, making amazing music right from the start. No, you still need to do like the music composition process. And also, it needs to be an iterative process. Pull out the notebook again. Take notes of your mappings, because the last thing you want to do is get this nice pre-planned setup only to come back to it the next weekend or whenever you have a chance again to make music and you've forgotten all of that hard work that you already did, and you might feel a little discouraged coming back to this, or your progress will at least be slowed because you'll have to relearn everything. So I take notes of my mappings. I might even start to map out the flow of what a performance would look like, because there's no use in just committing it all to memory right from the start. Eventually, after practicing a bunch, it's going to become more fluid. And on that note, rehearsal. I feel like anybody who's taken like a traditional music lesson, like guitar lessons, or anybody who went to proper music school, there's a culture of practice and rehearsal and going to the practice room and spending a bunch of time there and practicing. But I feel like in electronic music, we don't have that same like centuries of pedagogy and centuries of culture that have brought us to a way to really sort of refine our performance skills, which can ultimately result in you feeling like you're doing something wrong or that you're not getting it fast enough. But I'm here to tell you that behind every amazing performance that you've seen and watched, there have been multiple hours, days, months of practice and rehearsals and tweaks and improvements. Even in the construction of this setup, I ended up swapping out some pieces. Like I swapped the Mini. I swapped the Launchpad Mini for the APC Mini. It's just kind of egregious, the features they left out of the Launchpad Mini, like being able to arm tracks and things like that. And also the footprint is not that much different from the APC Mini, even though it is bigger. And then you also get the addition of faders. And if you haven't already picked up on the rundown of what's going on here, I've got the Roland S1 as a great lead synth. I'm controlling it with the Mini Lab 3 via the MIDI out, but the Mini Lab 3 also works as the MIDI controller for Ableton Live, where I play virtual instruments and trigger samples on the pads. The OP1 Field is great for this kind of setup because it's instant access to a lot of instruments, but at the surface level, you have sort of 8 presets you can quickly recall right from the instrument. So it's very fluid and flexible in that way. And then of course, the TR8S, I have been wanting to use this drum machine for a while and Roland sent it my way and I've been very happy jamming with it. It's just so great to have the hands-on control over every single piece of the drum kit at any moment. It makes performing it makes it feel like performing on a proper like analog instrument or acoustic instrument, you know? And then finally, the launch control, which has been a sort of tried and true player in most of my setups over the years, just very versatile. We've got the knobs, we've got the buttons, all ready to be mapped, and I map them for different performance features, filters, repeats, turning tracks on and off, that kind of thing. So this is still a work in progress, but I've got a bit of a performance for you, which is not perfect whatsoever. I'm going to play a little bit of it here, but I'm going to also include the full performance as a separate video here on this channel. I'll link that in the description. It's funny, I kick things off with a mistake. I programmed the kick drum instead of the high tom, but I just play it off. And in watching the video back, there's a few mistakes or quote unquote mistakes that I make, but I don't think most people would notice them. So I'm not too hard on myself about it, though I do need to get better and make sure that every action I take is deliberate and intentional and that I know what I'm doing with the setup. But I told you at the beginning I had a realization. It's about the never-ending quest for the perfect gear and the perfect setup. And the realization is there is no perfect setup. There is no perfect gear. I mean, I live this insane life where a lot of this gear shows up at my door for free, and I've had access to so much gear over the years. And I guess the realization is it's more about the dreaming up what you can do with the different combinations of gear and learning the individual pieces so that you can pull them out from your arsenal when you need to. Actually the process, the drawing it out on paper, the putting it all together, the tweaking, all of that is like the most enjoyable part. At the end of the day, when I finish making the music, it's just done. Like it feels over. I feel empty. There's no more quest to pursue. And I think that's what has kept me going in electronic music, this love of technology, but a love for music and the complexity of the puzzle that we can put together, but the puzzle is different every time. So if you can find a way to accept that in your pursuit, instead of trying to find the perfect piece of gear and the perfect combination and the perfect setup, I think you will relieve yourself of a lot of anxieties. So even if you are on a very limited budget and you can only afford a few pieces of gear, instead of wishing like, wow, I wish I could afford so much of this other gear, or if I had that other piece, everything would be perfect, just come to the realization that there is no perfect. That will not be the case. If you hit the lottery tomorrow and you can suddenly buy all of the music gear that you want, which I feel like in a way I've sort of hit the gear lottery via this career, I'm here to tell you that it will not make you happier. You will not stumble upon the perfect combination of gear, and that it's all about the process and the work you put in, so that ultimately the music you create will be something that you're proud of. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in a comment down below. I want to thank Analog Cases once again for sponsoring this video. They have great gear stands that I've been using in my studio, as well as this new performance surface, not to mention a bunch of great cases on their website for whatever pieces of gear you have. So go check them out. When you support the sponsor, you support the channel. Also, this channel is supported by members like you, people who want behind the scenes content, people who want feedback on their music, members only videos, more insights into my process, things like that. If you become a member, I think you'll see it's a very vibrant international community of music producers like you, all in the pursuit of making music and for the love of gear and all of those things. So if that's interesting to you, click the join button down below. It's not available on mobile, but it's available on desktop. That's going to be it for now. See you all next time. This has been TAETRO. Have a good one.